Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this wonderful country where we live and work. I'm very grateful for their care and preservation of this beautiful place over the millennia. Manual lymph drainage all began with the Vodders, Astrid Vodder and Dr. Emile Vodder, who you see here. They were working in the south of France in the early 1930s, and they developed this very unique treatment which was not like any other manual therapy. Back then, there was hardly anything known about the lymph system, and I find it quite amazing that they were able to develop a technique which has such a profound and proven effect on lymphatic function before we even knew how the lymph system worked. They must have had excellent clinical observation skills and a whole lot of intuition, I think. They first presented what they called manual lymph drainage at a symposium in France in 1936. At the time, they were working primarily with chronic respiratory conditions, but the Vodders had a very holistic approach to treating the whole body, not just the problem. And they noticed that people weren't just congested in their lungs, they were congested everywhere. In fact, one of the first group of therapists to realise the value in these congestive techniques were aestheticians, who began using it for decongesting the skin and dermatological conditions. In the 1950s and 60s, the Vodders worked closely with Asdonk, Foldy and others who were developing treatments for oncology patients, and this is where combined decongestive therapy was born. Then in the 70s and 80s, the Vodders worked closely with Gunther and Hildegard Wittlinger, who were involved in further development of new techniques and the adaptations for skeletal muscular conditions. It's also thanks to the Wittlingers that we have a structured training program, because the Vodders just wanted to teach anybody who was interested. You just went and worked in their clinic with them and they taught you what they were doing. I got involved when Robert Harris brought the training to Australia in 1997, and I was hooked, converting all my remedial clients to MLD within 2 years, and I became an accredited Dr. Vodder instructor in 2002. The Wittlinger Therapy Centre and the Dr. Vodder Academy International are now an international centre of competence, and we've got instructors worldwide. I just want to run through a little bit of research, because one of the things that stood out in my mind when I did my first training was the amount of times that research was referred to in the theory sessions. And there is quite a lot of research that supports the physiological effects of the technique that we observe clinically. A lot of the early research was done in the 70s and 80s by Professor Hutchenreuter, who measured the direct effect of MLD on the sympathetic nervous system. Interestingly, he always measured the therapist as well as the client and found a similar significant reduction in sympathetic tone when performing MLD. So as therapists, we're also benefiting from this powerful effect. He did some other interesting stuff like measuring borborygmus sounds. That's the sounds that your belly makes when the parasympathetic system is allowed to properly do the resting and digestive activities that it's responsible for. And this supports Hutchenreuter's findings on the reduction in sympathetic tone. He also did really important research on blood flow through the capillary under the effects of MLD. And we go into all of this in detail in the classes, as it's something that you really need to understand when you're treating edemas. Hutchenreuter showed that, like many manual techniques, MLD increases blood flow through to the tissues, so we get better tissue perfusion and cellular nutrition. The difference is MLD does it without an increase in blood pressure, so there's no extra filtrate coming into the tissues. In fact, MLD reduces the total level of filtrate escaping into the tissues, which is the opposite to almost every other manual therapy. And we do explain this thoroughly for you in the Level 1 training. One area where we don't have a lot of research is on the effects of MLD in immune function, which it's very hard to measure and very expensive to do trials on things like this. But Foldy did quite a simple study on C-reactive protein, which is a blood marker of overall inflammation in the body. It's not location specific. It can't tell you what was causing the inflammation, just how much total inflammation there is. And Foldy showed that C-reactive protein reduces under MLD. In South Korea, Kim and colleagues have done work which supports Hutchinreuter's original findings on the effect of MLD on autonomic tone. There are others who've shown balancing of blood glucose, and an interesting one for those of you who are looking at MLD for sports applications, where they showed that the enzymes released into the bloodstream after physical exertion are cleared more quickly using MLD. Lately, we've also had more research in understanding lymphatic physiology, and most of this we can relate immediately and directly to the actions of MLD. In the Dr. Vodder Academy, we have 2 certificate streams, one for health professionals and one for beauty professionals. But lately the distinctions between these 2 streams have gotten a bit blurred because so many health professionals are seeking training in the esthetician procedures, which are really great after things like plastic surgery and invasive cosmetic procedures. So the main difference here is that if you have a diploma in beauty therapy, you can only take the esthetician's courses. You can't take the health professional stream. But if you're a health professional, you can take either stream. Eligibility in the health professional stream is an AQF or NZQF level 5 diploma in a clinical modality or higher, and in the esthetician stream, a diploma in beauty therapy or aromatherapy. The certificate in applied MLD is for the hundreds of non-lymphedema conditions that we treat. And the certificate in MLD and combined decongestive therapy is for all of those chronic edemas, including lymphedema. The esthetician certificates then are divided into neck and face for facial specialists and advanced body, which doesn't include the neck and face. Everything begins with level 1, which is where you learn all the fundamental theory, and we deliver that in a 6-week online course that's completed before the level 1 practical. We recommend you allow around 4 hours of self-guided study for that and each week, and then we have a 1-hour online tutorial with your level 1 teacher every week. There's an online exam for the theory, and we give you a lot of assistance to prepare you for that. The practical is 4 days intensive hands-on training in all of the fundamental techniques and sequences for the 9 body regions. There are no assessments in level 1 because it's not a full qualification. So you can just focus on learning and really understanding the techniques before you go on to the next level of training without the stress of any practical exams. Level 2 is applied MLD. And this extends our treatment into the deeper body, including treatments for all the joints and muscles, drainage of the cerebral spaces, respiratory and digestive organs. So this is all your post-stroke, neurodegenerative diseases, traumatic brain injury, sporting injury, long COVID, chronic regional pain syndrome, carpal tunnel trigger points, all your digestive and reproductive issues and autoimmune diseases. As long as the lymph system hasn't been damaged, we can most likely treat it with MLD. Level 2 is another 4 days of intensive hands-on, and there are assessments at this level on the techniques, on the sequencing of treatments, and on clinical reasoning, because this is now a qualification and you're issued a certificate of achievement. We have post-course mentoring included in your course with 4 1-hour meetings after the course to help you integrate MLD into your clinical practice. And those are dedicated meetings for your course, and then you also have 12 months access to our virtual therapist community. And there's always at least 1 or 2 meetings available every week. Sometimes we have international instructors like Kobe Blanchfield from Canada or Maeve McSweeney from Ireland, who generously allow us to pick their brains on all of their enormous volume of clinical experience that they have. Level 3 is the certificate in MLD and CDT, which teaches all the complex treatments needed for lymphedema management, including bandaging and garment prescription. You don't have to take level 2 in order to do the level 3 certificate, but we do recommend that you take all the levels if you want to be able to treat everything. And it is ideal to study them in the order level 1, level 2, level 3 if you can. But that's not always practical or accessible for everybody. So having this new format where you can get your lymphedema training without taking level 2 just makes MLD more accessible for a lot of people. Level 3 then has another 2 days of advanced theory with Professor Neil Pillar, plus another 8 days of intensive hands-on training, where you learn all of the adaptations of MLD for a damaged lymph system. So including level 1, 14 days practical altogether. We know there are a lot of really short training programs out there now, and I just don't understand how they can cover the complexities of chronic edema in such a short amount of time. So I'm quite glad that we have maintained our full training program, because actually that's what you really need if you're going to do justice to treating lymphedema. Again, because there are, we're giving you a qualification, there are assessments on techniques, sequencing, clinical reasoning and bandage application. And again, you've got your 4 dedicated meetings after the course so that you can reconnect with your instructor once you're back in your clinic and working out how to apply all your new knowledge. This opportunity to talk to your instructor about what you're experiencing, make sure that you're on the right track and can get some advice when you need it. And then you also have access to the virtual community for another 12 months. Okay, that's our certificates for the healthcare professionals. For the advanced neck and face, there's a 2.5-day basic neck and face course, and then a further 2.5 days for the advanced techniques. Unless you are only ever going to treat faces, I'd recommend that you take the level 1 instead of basic neck and face, so that you learn MLD for the whole body, including the neck and face, and from there you can take both the advanced neck and face and the advanced body without going back and repeating any basic level. You can't progress from basic neck and face to advanced body. Advanced neck and face is for all of those very delicate dermatological conditions like rosacea, and advanced body is for all the post-surgical procedures, liposuction, which covers stretch marks in pregnancy, cesarean section, and that's another 4-day program. This course was until actually recently completely redeveloped by Kobe in response to the way that everything's changed in the last couple of decades. Before that, it was really kind of spa, wellness, cellulite, people who felt bloated and congested. But now it's really about all those complex plastic surgeries that people are having, butt lifts, 360s and implants everywhere. So it's a really great course if you're interested in the emerging field of medical aesthetics. Okay, that's the certificate streams. So what about our recertification program? Again, this is one of the things that I love about our school. We have the potential to just keep coming back and continuously learning and improving your techniques. And once you've taken your original Dr. Vodder training, you know, you're really never left alone. There's a lot of ongoing support. So as well as our mentoring program, we have this review program for our therapists. And we like you to come back for that every 2 years, but it's really up to you. Some new graduates come back the next year to perfect their skills and reconnect with colleagues in the early days of their clinical career. In terms of the Dr. Vodder School, if you don't recertify after 3 years, you will drop off their international referral listing. Now that we have 2 separate certificate streams, we also have separate reviews. So there's a 2-day review for the Applied MLD recertification and a 2-day review for the lymphedema recertification. And that recertifies you to be listed for the Applied MLD or lymphedema therapist categories, respectively, on the Dr. Vodder website. For those of you who did the old Therapy 2 and 3 program where you had to learn everything all together, you didn't have an option to break it up into certificates, you can come to any of the level 3 reviews and that will recertify you in the lymphedema category. You can't attend the level 2 reviews unless you upgrade to the new Applied MLD certificate, as it really is a bit different to how you learned it. We couldn't really teach the clinical reasoning and treatment planning for the specials in that old format. It kind of got lost in amongst the lymphedema. So quite a few therapists have come back to do the new level 2 certificate and find that it's really changed how they're using MLD. I've got an asterisk next to the advanced body therapy there because if you have an advanced body certificate, you still need to have an eligible qualification to take the level 2 or level 3 class. Beauty therapists can't go from the advanced body to level 2, for example. So the current level 3 reviews that we're offering, we've got one in Adelaide in March. There's still a couple of places left there, and then another one in Auckland in September. That will recertify you in the lymphedema category. We are planning a combined level 2 and level 3 review, hopefully in a retreat centre where we'll all be staying on site and having other nice things to do like yoga and meditation. It's still in the early days of planning, but likely to be April 2025. Something else that I just want to point out are the online resources that we've developed at Moving Lymph Online, which are unique in the world. You won't actually get these if you take the Dr. Vodder training program anywhere else. We give you a lot of support to get through that first online theory program and the theory exam. And then we give you contact with your teacher and your classmates before you get into the classroom together. And we're also the only country offering you that post-course mentoring, giving you that ongoing contact with your instructors so you can come back and talk through what's happening in your clinic. When I first set up these post-course meetings, I actually hadn't realised how much engagement and peer-to-peer sharing there would be, which is really fantastic, and it's especially beneficial if you're working on your own in a private clinic. It can be quite isolating, particularly when you first start out. Even if you don't have a specific case that you want to discuss, or you can't stay on for the whole hour of the meeting, sometimes it's nice just to jump on for 10 or 15 minutes and say hello. For more information on any of the Dr. Vodder courses, please see the Moving Lymph website. Moving Lymph is a central access portal with all of the registration processes in one place for Australia and New Zealand. And Moving Lymph Online hosts all of the online courses and communities. Hopefully you can find us on most of those social platforms. We'd really appreciate it if you follow and like our pages and posts. And if you have any questions at all about the training program or the recertification program, just let me know. My email address is on the screen there. Thank you, and thank you for your attention.